Close your eyes for a moment and imagine that everything you know about comfort has vanished. There is no electricity, no running water, no central heating, no supermarkets, no hospitals, no phones, and certainly no internet. Instead, you wake before dawn on a cold morning somewhere in medieval Europe. The year could be 1250, but to you, it feels like another world entirely. You open your eyes, not in a warm bedroom, but on a rough mattress stuffed with straw. The straw has not been changed in months, perhaps even years. It crackles beneath your weight, carrying with it the smell of dust, dampness, and the tiny insects that have made it their home. Fleas and lice are not unusual visitors. They are simply part of life. Most people accept them because there is little they can do. The room is almost completely dark. The only light slips through small cracks in the wooden walls. Your house is built from timber, mud, and straw, with a roof of thatch that leaks whenever heavy rain falls. The floor beneath your feet is packed dirt. There are no carpets, no polished wooden boards, only hardened earth that becomes muddy whenever water finds its way inside. The air is cold enough to make every breath visible. During winter, the fire may have gone out during the night because firewood is precious. Restarting it takes time, patience, and effort. Until then, the cold settles into your hands and feet, making even simple tasks uncomfortable. You do not have the luxury of sleeping in. There is no weekend, no vacation, and no alarm clock to snooze. Your body rises because it has no other choice. Every hour of daylight is valuable. The fields must be worked, animals must be cared for, water must be collected, and food must be prepared before darkness returns. Stepping outside, you are greeted not by paved roads, but by muddy paths filled with animal waste. Chickens wander freely, pigs search for scraps, dogs bark in the distance. The smell is impossible to ignore. Human waste is often thrown into the streets, and rain mixes everything together into thick layers of mud. Even breathing deeply reminds you that sanitation, as we know it today, simply does not exist. You head toward the village while carrying heavy wooden buckets. Clean water is never guaranteed. Streams can carry disease. Wells sometimes become contaminated, yet water is essential, and every family must gather enough for drinking, cooking, and cleaning. Even this simple morning chore demands physical strength. Breakfast, if you are fortunate enough to have one, is humble. Perhaps a piece of coarse rye bread hardened from yesterday, accompanied by weak ale or watered beer. Contrary to popular belief, even children often drank weak ale because clean drinking water was not always available. Fresh fruit is seasonal. Meat is a rare luxury for ordinary peasants, appearing mostly during celebrations or religious festivals. Hunger is a familiar companion rather than an occasional inconvenience. As the sun slowly climbs higher, work begins immediately. If you are a farmer, and most people are, your survival depends entirely upon the land. Every season brings different responsibilities. Fields must be plowed by hand or with simple wooden tools. Seeds must be planted carefully. Weeds must be removed. Crops must be harvested before bad weather destroys months of hard work. The labor is relentless. There are no tractors, no engines, no machines to make life easier. Every movement depends upon your own muscles or the strength of an ox pulling a wooden plow. Hours pass beneath the sun or rain, bending, lifting, digging, and carrying. Blisters form on your hands. Your back aches constantly. Yet stopping is not an option because failure to produce enough food could mean starvation during winter. Life in medieval Europe is ruled by uncertainty. One violent storm can flatten crops. One unusually cold season can shorten the harvest. A disease affecting livestock may wipe out a family's only source of milk or labor. Modern insurance does not exist. Savings accounts do not exist. For most people, a single disaster can mean hunger for months. The lord who owns the surrounding land expects his share of your harvest. Taxes must be paid. The church also collects tithes. After everyone else receives their portion, what remains must somehow feed your family through the coming months. It is a delicate balance that often leaves little room for comfort. Despite the hardship, the village is alive with activity. Blacksmiths hammer glowing iron into horseshoes and tools. Bakers prepare bread before sunrise. Millers grind grain into flour using large water-powered mills whenever rivers allow. Every profession is physically demanding, and every worker depends on others for survival. Medieval communities are tightly connected because no single family can produce everything it needs. The second morning arrives long before your body has recovered from the first. The soreness in your shoulders and legs has only grown worse overnight, yet there is no opportunity to rest. In medieval Europe, pain is not considered a reason to stop working. It is simply another part of life, accepted in the same way people accept rain or winter. As the first rays of sunlight begin to stretch across the fields, the entire village is already awake. Today, your greatest concern is not comfort, it is food. For most people living during the Middle Ages, every meal depends entirely upon the success of the previous harvest. There are no refrigerated warehouses storing food from distant countries. There are no cargo ships delivering fresh fruit across oceans. Everything your family eats has either been grown nearby, traded with neighboring villages, or preserved months earlier in preparation for the cold seasons. A poor harvest can haunt a village for an entire year. Breakfast is little more than yesterday's bread, dipped into weak ale. The bread itself is coarse and dense, made from rye, barley, or oats rather than the soft white loaves most people enjoy today. Wheat is expensive, and fine white bread is often reserved for the wealthy. Ordinary villagers learn to eat whatever grain is available, even if it is mixed with husks or ground imperfectly by the village mill. Sometimes the flour itself carries hidden dangers. Small stones left behind during grinding can crack teeth over time. Mold growing on damp grain may contaminate entire batches of bread, yet throwing food away is almost unimaginable. Every crumb represents hours of labor, and wasting it could mean going hungry later. After breakfast, work in the fields begins once again. The land stretches endlessly before you. Narrow strips of farmland surround the village, each carefully divided among families who have cultivated the same soil for generations. Every season brings different responsibilities, but none of them are easy. If it is spring, seeds must be planted by hand with careful precision. Summer demands constant weeding and maintenance. Autumn becomes a race against time as crops must be harvested before storms or frost destroy them. Winter offers little relief, replacing farming with repairing tools, caring for animals, and surviving the freezing temperatures. Every task depends upon physical strength. Without tractors or engines, fields are turned using heavy wooden plows pulled by oxen. Even guiding the animals requires experience and endurance. A single mistake can damage valuable equipment or waste precious time during the short planting season. Hours pass beneath the open sky. The sun grows hotter as sweat soaks your simple linen clothing. Your hands become rougher with every passing day. Dirt works its way beneath your fingernails. Your back protests every movement, yet the work continues without pause. Modern workers often count the hours until the end of a shift. In medieval Europe, the work ends only when darkness makes it impossible to continue. Around midday, there is finally an opportunity to eat. Lunch is rarely exciting. A thick vegetable pottage simmers inside a large iron pot hanging over the fire. This simple stew forms the foundation of countless medieval meals. Cabbage, onions, beans, peas, carrots, barley, and whatever herbs happen to grow nearby are added together, creating a filling meal that can feed an entire family. The same pot may remain cooking for days. Whenever fresh ingredients become available, They are simply added to the existing mixture. Little is wasted because waste cannot be afforded. Meat, despite popular imagination, is surprisingly uncommon for ordinary peasants. A chicken produces eggs far more valuable than its meat. A cow provides milk. An ox pulls the plow. Killing these animals removes future resources that families desperately need. Instead, meat is usually saved for festivals, celebrations, or rare occasions. When an animal becomes too old to work, fish is more common near rivers and coastal regions, particularly during religious fasting days when eating meat is discouraged by the church. Salted herring and dried cod travel long distances through trade, providing an important source of protein for many communities. As afternoon arrives, the weather begins to change. Dark clouds gather over the horizon. Rain during harvest season is more than an inconvenience. It can destroy months of hard work. Every villager understands the danger. Families rush to collect grain before the storm reaches the fields. Children carry bundles almost as large as themselves. Elderly relatives sort harvested crops beneath simple shelters, while younger workers continue cutting wheat as quickly as possible. Nature is both friend and enemy. A gentle spring rain encourages crops to grow. Too much rain rots them. Too little rain leaves the soil